Now, I'm delighted to welcome into the studio a gentleman I haven't seen for a few years, came in as part of the team, going back about 7 years now in the history of Swindon 105.5, and that's a lovely gentleman called Mike Thomas. And it's lovely to see you.
Thank you.
Now, you've been a very busy chap, because I know when you first came to us, you were very interested in travelling and going off to places like the Cameroon in particular, weren't you?
I was, yes.
Yeah, and that love, that passion has stayed with you.
Yes, still very much interested in helping poor people in developing countries.
Mike, first of all, I must ask, before we look at the reason for coming in, which is to do with a very special project, why the Cameroon? What is the attraction?
Well, I was interested in a project we received from an organisation in the Cameroon many years ago, which was to cut down eucalyptus trees, which were affecting the lives of women, particularly having to walk long distances because of the water that was being drawn up by these trees. And we put 2 projects to the lottery board to fund the removal of 1.5 million eucalyptus and replace them with 3 million indigenous trees, mainly for agroforestry. Very successful project.
Indeed, and it's made a long-term difference to the country and the people who live there.
Yeah, mainly women too. Mm.
And from there, you went on to find an amazing little place where children were needing particular help with their various disabilities. So there are some very severely disabled children in Africa not receiving the help, the medical help that they need in order to give them a life and a future. So tell us about this project.
Yes, it was the man I came across in Bafoussam in the western region. It's a population of about 230 million, about the same size as Swindon. And he was working for a very dilapidated building with very basic equipment, treating on average about 200 children a year who've got severe deformities and correcting their deformities. They have had help 2 or 3 times a year with operations in the most severe cases from surgeons who come over from Holland. But otherwise they were doing most of the work themselves.
What numbers of children are we talking about?
Well, it's about 200 a year they're treating. In case of disability, I can't find a lot of information, but it looks about 4% of the population of children under the age of 18 have some form of disability. Many of those disabilities are physical problems, also to do with eyesight, which is not treated by this particular organisation, but they do some amazing work, and I've shown you some of the pictures which illustrate that.
Absolutely. I mean, we've got some of the pictures in front of us now. We're seeing children before and after surgery, and the changes are so immensely dramatic. Children who no way could they walk with their limbs deformed, and in nearly all cases it's their legs that have been affected.
Yes, I think possibly due to rickets, it may be even a lack of sunlight, where children tend to be hidden away if they've got a disability. Families don't like to own up to the fact that they've got a disabled child very often. But we don't know for sure what's causing so many deformities, leg deformities of this kind in this region. I think for the future we need to find out what exactly is going on.
Now, the before and the after pictures that you've shown me are amazing. They don't look like the same people, and it's giving them such an amazing opportunity to have a life, because I would imagine that the mortality rate can be quite high amongst families where there are children with severe disabilities.
Yes, I think so. And of course, children don't get an opportunity to go to school, they don't get an opportunity to get a job, so they're going to end up probably doing very little, begging maybe, or if they're lucky, get some income that way. But they are a liability for the family as well. To have a disabled child is a terrible thing. And of course there are other superstitions in Africa regarding disability. People will think that the parents have done something bad in a former life, and children get discriminated against. If they go to school, they might get bullied or taunted, because of the disability. Yeah, so many things for disabled children to put up with. And really, with our charity, we want to target the very poorest people, the most disadvantaged people in the world.
There is a lack of understanding and perhaps some level of intelligence which allows them to believe in witch doctors and the types of story you were telling me earlier. If perhaps you'll just let us know this particular story where the parents believed their child would turn into a serpent.
Yeah, well, we funded a little survey, about 10,000 people in the villages around. And there was one case where the family had given their disabled child to a witch doctor who had informed them, if I take your child to a river and throw it into the river, it will turn into a serpent. And so the parents gave the child to the witch doctor. He took it away, threw it into the river, and of course it drowned. He went back to the parents and he said to them, exactly as I told you, as soon as I threw that child into the river, it changed into a serpent. I don't know how many cases there are of this kind, but we've got to remember that disabled children are such a drain on family incomes that you can't justify that kind of thing, but in a way you can understand it, that if the child has no opportunities, no possibility of getting treatment, they might think, well, he might as well be dead, you know.
And families do rely on their children to support them too, so young, strong children would be expected to go and fetch water or support the family in other ways.
Yeah, I mean, pragmatically, it's a terrible drain on the economy of the country. I mean, to have a lot of disabled children, as much as 4% of the population probably, have got some form of disability. When a lot of those children, if they were treated, get basic prosthetic treatment, well, we'd be able to get a job, they'd be able to go to school, and if they couldn't do physical work, they could certainly use their brains to gain an income.
We often hear appeals to help children and other countries, and the question's often asked, well, why isn't the government doing it for themselves? And the Cameroon government doesn't have a very good record of its social support, its support for its people. That is quite lacking, so that's a bigger thing to change. And in the meantime, organisations such as yours we're going to talk about now are sort of stepping into the breach to help. But when the government sees that this kind of external support's coming, does that not encourage them to be even more, in quotes, lazy, if you like, because they think someone is going to be doing it for them?
Well, we quite hope for an opposite effect, maybe. Maybe by putting up this building to treat children, that will actually shame them, because I think the man in charge, the Cameroonian man who gained 10 years of training in America, then came back to help his own people, and to see the marvellous work he's doing and what can be achieved. I mean, most of the blocks for the building were made on site from the clay on the site. The men who were working on it worked very hard, getting water from a local stream to mix with the sand and cement for plastering. So I think when maybe politicians get to hear this project and others like it in the Cameroon, they will say, well, we can't not be seen to be helping. We've got to do something to help ourselves.
Well, it sounds like the founder that you just mentioned, indeed, his name is Alfred Wingo, and he wrote a very sort of honest letter, didn't he, about himself, born of a peasant family of 5. It wasn't too long after he lost school that he also lost his father, and he had to work in a local coffee factory to pay for his own education. And from this level of living, he decided that he wanted to develop himself. He wanted to progress. He wanted to learn. He went to America. He learnt various studies, but he was so inspired by his own country and by his own learning that he wanted then to make an effect for his fellow man back home in the Cameroon. So there he returned and joined hands with a group of local Cameroonians, and they've put together a strategy to assist this ever-increasing number of disabled children, particularly in the western region of the Cameroon itself. So he's come from a background that really understands the need and the plight and how to work with the Western world. And so now back to you, Mike. You visit the Cameroon. You've visited several times and become aware of some of their plights. But why this particular organisation, or why this particular area of help? What touched you?
Well, I think it's your experiences to help in any situation based on your own luck in a way. So while I was over there in connection with another project funded by the Lottery Board, I came across this organisation in Bafoussam. It's about the same size as Swindon. And this man doing marvellous work using very basic equipment. I mean, hand sewing machines he was using to make his prosthetics. And a lot of the stuff was made from local materials in the building. Very dilapidated building on a very poorly maintained road. There was an obvious need for a better facility, and we talked about this. And then later on, I went over again, and we looked at 3 plots of land which were on a main road, very well serviced by buses and other forms of public transport. And we decided very quickly to support. My wife and I came up with the money to buy the land, and it started from there. We had initially a £7,000 grant from the Zurich Open Work Foundation, which is supported by their staff. And then we've had a few small grants from from other trusts, not just local trusts. But most of the money has come in from individuals. And presently we're trying to raise the rest of the money, which is £4,500, by using a crowdfunding organisation called Global Giving. They've been excellent. They've provided us with excellent training on how best to mount an appeal. And you're in a kind of league with other charities also wanting support for their projects, all very worthwhile. But there are 33 of them. At the moment we're standing third in the table. Not that I like competitive things, but it shows, I think, that we've had good support. We're almost up to our target. And we decided to raise it from 4,500 to 5,200 in the hope that other people might come in, because there will be a need for ongoing support for the day-to-day work of the NGO over there. We have plans for an annex to the building which will provide accommodation for about 24 children, post-operative care. So there are a lot of plans for the future. But of course we're also supporting projects in other countries and other areas. But this is one of our priorities.
So 4,500 more to go, but this is part of a bigger project.
No, we've nearly got the 4,500.
It's nearly there now.
Now we're just going up, raising it up to 5,200.
So it's that last little bit,
that's
the difference between the 4.5 and the 5.2.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure the way you're going, that's not going to be too far away. The whole project was about 30,000, and for that you couldn't even get a garage extension in this country, could you?
Well, no, that might be taking it a bit too far, but no, you couldn't get very much for 30,000. And if you multiplied it by 10, which is what I usually do in trying to make comparisons, what could you get for 300,000? You know, a large house maybe.
Absolutely. Well, we've got photographs in front of us of the children seeing before and afters, as mentioned earlier, and the transformation between them is amazing. You can see those pictures on our website. Just click on our homepage. And also the building itself, seeing it in various stages of build. And what you're actually working with local people, so they've taken an interest in this building, so you've gone to local men. Yeah,
certainly one good thing about the project is that it's providing work for local people. So we're local labourers and craftsmen have been working on the project. And because of the difficulty of getting the money, we've also used clay from the site to make the building blocks. So every way we can, we tried to economise on the project as a whole.
It's attracted a certain amount of professional help and support too, with different types of medical support, doctors coming and surgeons coming from Holland.
That's right. There's 2 or 3 surgeons come over about 3 times a year to Cameroon to carry out operations on the cases which they can't treat by normal prosthetics work. Yeah, but that's a pinprick really. It's not enough to. There are not enough trained surgeons in the Cameroon itself.
So it's looking to try and get further support, the government to take an interest in its people, because that's their future. The future of the country is the young people growing now. But also education, perhaps, for families and how they can perhaps look after themselves better, which might then help pregnant women when they're carrying their children. But also then an education further on from that as how they work with and support those young people. And then again, there's one more, and that's acceptance. And there's a huge amount of acceptance to be done. So there's a huge job of work to be done. And hopefully something like this treatment and rehabilitation centre, will be something that can inspire.
Yeah, there's an indication it's changing attitudes already, because it's situated on a main road, a tarmac road, very few of them in Cameroon or in Africa as a whole. And people are seeing what's going on and asking about the project and what's going on here and taking interest. And that will help to change attitudes as well. And what I'm hoping too is that they might set up a little business on the site, so some of the disabled children or people there will actually be getting an income from providing, say, have a little coffee house maybe or something like that they can sell the products they make there and make an income from it. But these are all plans for the future.
Well, you need something to build on, and you've got the building there, which is looking amazing. It really is. So you're not far off now. You're talking about a couple of £100 is all you need to reach that target. I really hope now, if you've been touched by what you've heard and the work that goes on with these children, and do check out some of those pictures and more. But if you want to find out more about the project itself and see its development, see some of those amazing achievements, then there is an official website as well. If you want to give that, Mike.
Yes, I think the easiest way of getting to the donation page is to go to our website, and if you type Future in Our Hands International Network into Google, it'll take you there. That's probably the easiest way.
So Future in Our Hands, it's as easy as that. And let's hope it does really carry on, not only make a difference now, but to generate more interest to develop this, not only on this site, but perhaps to have other similar layouts in other parts of the country.
That's the hope for the future, yes, indeed.
Well, you've had a long relationship now with Cameroon, go back to about 2009, I think your first visit, was it?
Well, even before that on the larger projects, yes. It's the eucalyptus project that spanned over about 4 or 5 years. So I've been several times to Cameroon.
Obviously a place that holds special in your heart.
Yes, not only that, but in a lot of other African countries as well. I have quite a long association with Sierra Leone, and some hairy experiences of there as well.
That sounds like there's cue for a part 2. Will you come back and see us again in the new year and tell us how it's all going?
Certainly. We hope to open the centre in February or March next year. The way things are going, I think that's well on target.
Wow, amazing. But well done to you and also to your wife for believing in this project and for starting it all off, for literally laying the foundations of this, which we hope will be exceedingly successful, helping thousands of children in the future. So if you want to find out more, don't forget Future in Our Hands. Just Google that, you'll find out more and how you can help this project. Mike, thank you for cycling in, because you come all the way from East Swindon, I believe. West Swindon.
Yes, I did, yeah. I enjoy cycling.
It's a good job, isn't it?
It is.
Man who loves to keep fit. But lovely to see you again, and please keep us in touch.
Thank you very much for listening.
Mike Thomas and Future in Our Hands.